old sport. Just near the shore along the sound. What time? Any time that suits you best. It was on the tip of my tongue to ask his name when Jordan looked around and smiled. Having a gay time now? She inquired. Much better. I turned again to my new acquaintance. This is an unusual party for me. I haven't even seen the host. I live over there. I waved my hand at the invisible hedge in the distance. And this man Gatsby sent over his chauffeur with an invitation. For a moment he looked at me as if he failed to understand. I'm Gatsby, he said suddenly. What? I exclaimed. Oh, I beg your pardon. Well, I thought you knew, old sport. I'm afraid I'm not a very good host. He smiled understandingly, much more than understanding. It was one of those rare smiles, with a quality of eternal reassurance in it, that you may come across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced, or seemed to face, the whole external world for an instant, and then concentrated on you, with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. It understood you just as far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself, and assured you that it had precisely the impression of you that, at your best, you hoped to convey. Precisely at that point it vanished, and I was looking at an elegant young roughneck, a year or two over 30, whose elaborate formality of speech just missed being absurd. Sometime before he introduced himself, I got a strong impression that he was picking his words with care. Almost at the moment when Mr. Gatsby identified himself, a butler hurried toward him with the information that Chicago was calling him on the wire. He excused himself with a small bow that included each of us in turn. If you want anything, just ask for it, old sport, he urged me. Excuse me. I will rejoin you later. When he was gone, I turned immediately to Jordan, constrained to assure her of my surprise. I expected that Mr. Gatsby would be a florid and corpulent person in his middle years. Who is he? I demanded. Do you know? He's just a man named Gatsby. Where is he from? And what does he do? Now you're started on the subject, she answered with a wan smile. Well, he told me once he was an Oxford man. A dim background started to take shape behind him, but at her next remark it faded away. However, I don't believe it. Why not? I don't know, she insisted. I just don't think he went there. Something in her tone reminded me of the other girls. I think he killed a man, and had the effect of stimulating my curiosity. I would have accepted without question the information that Gatsby sprang from the swamps of Louisiana or from the Lower East Side of New York. That was comprehensible. But young men didn't, at least in my provincial inexperience, I believe they didn't, drift coolly out of nowhere and buy a palace on Long Island Sound. Anyhow, he gives large parties, said Jordan, changing the subject with an urban distaste for the concrete. And I like large parties. They're so intimate. At small parties, there isn't any privacy. There was the boom of a bass drum, and the voice of the orchestra leader rang out suddenly above the echolale of the garden. Ladies and gentlemen, he cried, at the request of Mr. Gatsby, we're going to play for you Mr. Vladimir Tolstoy's latest work, which attracted so much attention at Carnegie Hall last May. If you read the papers, you know there was a big sensation. He smiled with jovial condescension and added, some sensation. Whereupon everybody laughed. The piece is known, he concluded loosely, as Vladimir Tolstoy's Jazz History of the World.
Thank you, sir.
The nature of Mr. Tolstoy's composition eluded me, because just as it began, my eyes fell on Gatsby, standing alone on the marble steps, and looking from one group to another with approving eyes. His tan skin was drawn attractively tight on his face, and his shoulders trimmed every day. I could see nothing sinister about him. I wondered if the fact that he was not
Casual gamer, hi, how are you?
him off from his guests. For it seemed to me that he grew more correct as the
Guess what? Guess what?
When the jazz history of the
On my main account, I went to level 48. Level 48. Now I just need 25 million XP to go to level 49. But level 48! I am level 48. Level 48. Level 48.
No French Bob touched Gatsby's shoulder.
Woo!
No singing quartets were formed with Gatsby's head for 1 week.
I just need 24.9 million more to go to level 49, plus some other tasks. think the other test for
Mr. Gatsby.
4 months I could do the other test.
With me? She exclaimed in surprise. Yes, ma'am. She got up slowly, raising her eyebrows at me in astonishment, and followed the butler toward the house. I noticed that she wore her evening dress, all her dresses, like sports clothes. There was a jauntiness about her movements, as if she had first learned to walk upon golf courses on clean, crisp mornings. I was alone, and it was almost 2.
Woo.
For some time, confused and intriguing sound had issued from a long, many-windowed room.
We got
which overhung the
380 XL candies in
eluding
each count.
Jordan's undergraduate, who was now
So we can
engaged
power
in an
up one
obstetrical
level 50
conversation with 2
shadow.
chorus girls, and who implored
Woo.
me to join him. I went inside. The large room was full of people. One of the girls in yellow was playing the piano, and beside her stood a tall, red-haired young lady from a famous chorus, engaged in song. She had drunk a quantity of champagne, and during the course of her song, she had decided, ineptly, that everything was very, very sad. She was not only singing, she was weeping too. Whenever there was a pause in the song, she filled it with gasping, broken sobs, and then took up the
Police
lyric
parking
again
for
in a quavering soprano.
this building.
The tears coursed down her cheeks, not freely, however, for when they
I wonder what
came
it
in
used to be.
contact with her heavily beaded eyelashes, they assumed an inky color.
Oh, look
They
at that.
pursued the rest of their way in slow black rivulets. A humorous suggestion was made that she sing the
Oh,
notes
man,
on
that's
her
a drill
face,
noise.
whereupon she threw up her hands, sank into a chair, and went off into a deep, mindless sleep. She had a fight with a man who says he's her husband,
Oh!
explained a girl.
I didn't realize this is an anti-rain.
I looked around. Most of the remaining women were now having fights with men said to be their husbands. Even Jordan's party, the quartet from East A, were rent asunder by dissension. One of the men was talking with curious intensity to a young actress and his wife, after attempting to laugh at the situation in a dignified and indifferent way, broke down entirely and resorted to flank attacks. At intervals, she appeared suddenly at his side like an angry diamond and hissed, "You promised!" into his ear. The reluctance to go home was not confined to wayward men. The hall was at present occupied by 2 deplorably sober men and their highly indignant wives. The wives were sympathizing with each other in slightly raised voices. "Whenever he sees me having a good time, he wants to go home. Never heard anything so selfish in my life. We're always the first ones to leave, so are we." "Well, we're almost the last tonight," said one of the men sheepishly. "The orchestra left half an hour ago." In spite of this wives' agreement that such malevolence was beyond credibility, the dispute ended in a short struggle, and both wives were lifted, kicking, into the night. As I waited for my hat in the hall, the door of the library opened and Jordan Baker and Gatsby came out together. He was saying some last word to her, but the eagerness in his manner tightened abruptly into formality as several people approached him to say goodbye.
No.
Jordan's party were calling impatiently to her from the porch,
Oh,
but
it's
she
raining
lingered for a
again.
moment to shake hands. "I've just heard the most amazing thing," she whispered.
Shiny!
"How long were we in there?" "By about an hour." "It was simply amazing," she repeated, abstractedly. "But I swore I wouldn't tell it, and here I am."
We've gotten 334.
She yawned gracefully.
Another hour, probably 450.
"Please come and see me.
I think that's usually my max, 450.
Under the name Miss Sigourney Howard. My aunt."
But I gotta go to the
She was
bathroom.
hurrying off as she talked.
And
Her brown hand waved a jaunty salute
Ugh.
as she melted into her party at the door. Rather ashamed that on my first appearance I had stayed so late, I joined the last of Gatsby's guests, who were clustered around him. I wanted to explain that I'd hunted for him early in the evening and to apologize for not
wait,
being
Lies
there
VR,
in
what's
time.
up?
"Don't mention it," he enjoined me eagerly. "Don't give it another thought, old sport."
Old
The
sport.
familiar expression held no more familiarity than the hand which reassuringly brushed my shoulder. "And don't forget we're going up in a hydroplane tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Oh, it's raining with the sun out. It's raining with the sun out.
You
don't see that never, man.
All right, in a minute. Tell him I'll be right there. Good night. Good night. Good night. He smiled, and suddenly there seemed to be a pleasant significance in having been among the last to go.
Bagon, calm day.
Good night, old sport. But as I walked down the steps, I saw that the evening was not quite over. 50 feet from the door, a dozen headlights illuminated a bizarre and tumultuous scene. In the ditch beside the road, right
There we
side,
go.
but violently shorn
Alright,
with
sure.
one wheel, rested a new coupe, which had left Gatsby's drive not 2 minutes before. The sharp jut of a wall accounted for the detachment of the wheel, which was now getting considerable attention from half a dozen curious chauffeurs. However,
Can you
as they
add
had
me?
left their cars blocking the road,
For
a
sure.
harsh, discordant din from those in the rear had been audible for some time, and added to the already violent confusion of the scene. A man in a long duster had dismounted from the wreck and now stood in the middle of the road, looking from the car to the tire, and from the tire to the observers in a pleasant, puzzled way. "See?" he explained. "It went in the ditch." The fact was infinitely astonishing to him, and I recognized, first the unusual quality of wonder, and then the man. It was the late patron of Gatsby's library. "How did it happen?" He shrugged his shoulders. "I know nothing whatever about mechanics," he said decisively. "But how did it happen? Did you run into the wall?" "Don't ask me," said Owl Eyes, washing his hands of the whole matter. "I know very little about driving. Next to nothing. It happened. That's all I know." "Well, if you're a poor driver, you oughtn't to try driving at night." "But I wasn't even trying," he explained indignantly. "I wasn't even trying." An odd hush fell upon the bystanders. "Do you want to commit suicide? You're lucky it was just a wheel, a bad driver, and not even trying." "You don't understand," explained the criminal. "I wasn't driving. There's another man in the car." The shock that followed this declaration found voice in the sustained "ah" as the door of the coupe swung slowly open. The crowd,
Law
which
is
was now a
dirty.
crowd,
Added you.
stepped back involuntarily, and when the door had opened wide, there was a ghostly pause.
Okay, guys.
Very gradually,
I'm gonna need to go to the restroom.
a pale,
I might be back for more bagon.
paused.
But I'm not sure.
The ground, a large
Depends.
dancing show.
Probably
Blinded
back.
by the glare of the headlights and confused by the incessant groaning of the horns, the apparition stood swaying for a moment before he
Oh
pursued
my
the man in the
goodness,
dust.
here we go. Oh, sorry.
"What's the matter?"
sorry.
he inquired calmly. "Did we run out of gas? Look!"
So many bagons, so many bagons, so many bagons.
He stared at it for a moment and then looked upward as though he suspected that it had dropped from the sky.
I shouldn't have had chocolate.
"It came off," someone explained. He nodded. "At first I didn't notice we stopped." A pause. Then, taking a long breath and straightening his shoulders, he remarked in a determined voice, "You wonder if you tell me where there's a gasoline station? At least it does admit that some of them are a little better off than he was." Explained to him that wheel and car were no longer joined.
Oh, guys.
Back out.
Give me time to go to the bathroom and I'll be back.
Put her in
Probably,
reverse.
the last 15 minutes of calm day.
Hesitated.
Maybe.
No harm in trying.
Alright, thank you for watching.
He said.
Bye.
The caterwauling